Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. We're going to be covering over the top 10 best decks for the European International Championships in London. I'm in attendance, hence why I'm in this hotel room. So, yeah, always keeping it real with the content grind. Not too many updates this week, so if everyone's like, yo, this video looks really similar as my last video, yeah, we've really only seen 1 week or less than 1 week in between that video and this video. But we did have Sydney Regionals in Australia and Santiago Regionals in Chile. So there have been some slight adjustments to the ordering of decks and some slight adjustments to the lists. And maybe some of the archetype variants. So stay tuned for all that. Give this video a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. Let's get to that 30K subscriber mark. And of course, let me know in the comments which deck you are rocking with. The lists are all going to be available in the pinned comments, so be sure to check that out if you want to copy and paste them right into PTCG Live. Starting at number 10, we have Flareon EX, really Emma Hagen's baby at this point. She's been rocking this deck all over. Most recently coming second at, I believe, Birmingham Regionals. So putting this deck on the map, I think it's really one of those cases where she's the best player playing this deck, and not too many other players are playing it, so that's why it's hanging on by a thread. Decently positioned in the metagame. I mean, I've played Flareon to a day 2 finish at a Regionals before, so that was cool. Nothing else that's super notable in the deck. I think it's really the case of Gholdengo is doing well, and Flareon EX is good at beating Gholdengo based off of stats. So that's what we got going on with this one. Let's see what we got cooking at number 9. Trading its way into number 9 is going to be Zoroark EX, still rocking Liam Halliburton's list. Zoroark is doing slightly better than Flareon, so that's why I put it 1 spot above. And I think a lot of these lower top 10 decks might spike a tournament here or there, but on the real, I think, like Emma, rockin' Flareon, Liam Halliburton is kind of the one leading the way with Zoroark EX. Maybe there's a few more loyal followers to this deck, but I think they're all going to be playing a very similar list to what Liam rocked at Toronto. That being said, we have access to Toadscruel to stop our opponents from getting cards back, like Superior Energy Retrieval, getting those energies back in a Gholdengo deck. And of course, we have Mega Lopunny EX, which gives us a good attacker, considering we could really only copy Reshiram. I mean, you could copy Zoroark too, but whatever it is, Zoroark EX continues to just kind of be a variant of a deck defined by Liam Halliburton. So again, rocking his list right now. Let's see what we got cooking at number 8. I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record, but at number 8, we have Raging Bolt EX, another deck that seems to be carried by a select few, most notably Yurko Valencia took it to another top 16 finish at Santiago Regionals. They cut their Sandy Shocks EX for a copy of Bidoof, likely due to there not being enough fighting weak Pokemon, or maybe Bidoof sounds a little bit better to slow your opponent down in the early game. At this point, I'm just going to trust the experts on a lot of these decks because they've really just been kind of adjusting and tweaking week over week. So the Raging Bolt has kind of turned itself into a hybrid Crispin deck, being able to use Bellowing Thunder, Teal Mask Ogerpon, or Wellspring Ogerpon EX. That torrential pump really allowing you to snipe a bench Pokemon and the active, allowing you to really keep up. Maybe if you can't get that, you can use Bidoof, slow your opponent down for a turn. They take 1 prize card, you take 2. So that could allow you to kind of chase the prize trade and put it back into your favor. Other than that, I mean, it's looking pretty much like every other Raging Bolt list that we've seen over the past few weeks. It's nice to see Raging Bolt kind of jump back into the metagame before the archetype kind of rotates out due to the loss of Professor Sada's vitality. This deck seems to be picking up some traction among the community, most notably Pokeduels has been rocking this deck. So whether you're a fan of Yurko, Pokeduels, or just Raging Bolt in general, it seems like it's doing a little bit better than some of the other decks recently. Moving on to number 7, we are going to see Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX in its pure form. Last week we showed the Merida winning Toadscruel variant of this deck, and now I'm kind of going back into the Kieran Farah, Jordan Yell version of this deck. Just straight up consistency. Probably can do okay against enough of the metagame with this deck. Maybe the Toadstool is going to be helpful, but I also think that Gholdengo is getting targeted enough by other decks that maybe Marnie's Grimmsnarl can kind of sneak through and gain some consistency pieces otherwise. Punk Up is going to allow us to accelerate energies onto our various Marnie's Pokemon. We have access to Frostlass to add some damage counters that might be able to compound with Shadow Bullet, and of course Monkey Dory, like most other decks in the format that are pretty good. Monkey Dory allowing you to move some damage counters that you've taken on throughout the game. I do think that this list just looks like pretty straight up basic, consistent. That's the reason why I really want to go with it. Sometimes the best decks look kind of like those World Championship decks you see at Walmart or wherever you buy Pokemon cards. They really look like true contenders, and I think that this deck really looks like it could be one of those decks. Obviously, EUIC is not Worlds, but that's always the mentality that I get, that sometimes simplicity is perfect, right? Think about spaghetti and meatballs, right? Like, you have noodles, good sauce, and meatballs. We're not adding 10,000 ingredients to it. I'm always thinking about food, and maybe we'll continue to talk about food. Maybe we won't. I don't know, but let's see what we've got cooking at number 6. We went from the Tord version of Mega Absol to the Tim Danklin / Charlie Lockyer version of this deck. I mean, I think Charlie and Tim had very similar lists from Sydney Regionals. So going with kind of the new trend on this deck, we're going to be adding Toadscruel back in. So Marnie's took Toadscruel away, and maybe the Toadscruel is better than the Moltres package. Either way, this deck does need some kind of counter to Gholdengo. Being a Dark-type deck gives you some good answers to Gardevoir, and it's always been okay against Dragapult just due to Monkey Dory and having access to Penny. Some of the cool changes that this deck has added are the 3 stadiums. So instead of going with Risky Runes, we went with Lively Stadium, Team Rocket's Watchtower, and Town Store, giving yourself that varying effort. And the Jumbo Ice Cream, really allowing you to heal some serious damage off of a Pokemon instead of just using Penny. I always thought that 3 Penny seemed like too much, so I like 2 Penny and 1 Jumbo Ice Cream, but I think that's one of those strategies that I've seen all the way back from Chris Fulop, one of the greatest players of all time. They always taught me when it came to building decks to sometimes have 2 similar cards that have different effects, because sometimes you can really kind of own in on those effects. So instead of just playing 3 Penny, which might be the more consistent route, I think that Penny and Jumbo Ice Cream are very similar style cards, both in terms of like pseudo healing our Pokemon, or direct healing our Pokemon. And I really like that strategy built into this deck. So definitely one of those things where I do not have a Jumbo Ice Cream on me while I'm traveling around. I might have to pick one up. Ice cream certainly sounds good in London. Moving on up the list is going to be Dragapult Charizard. Now, this is what Oscar Madsen's kind of cooked up. Jesper Eriksson took it to a finalist at Merida, and we've seen the deck continuously do well at the Santiago Regionals and at Sydney Regional. So I think that Dragapult Charizard, on like just beyond doing well, it has a really naturally good matchup spread into the game, giving yourself a decent opportunity to see success. And with decks like Jelly Guardy Rising, which this deck has a really good matchup into, plus having a good matchup into Gholdengo, I think this deck really can cook throughout the metagame, and I think EUIC, we might see a few players actually pick this, because if you just beat a couple of the top decks and your deck can perform otherwise, seems pretty solid. This deck is no longer on fraud alert. I think it's kind of actually a real deck, probably due to the Danish Kitchen just cooking up a really good version of the deck. So give this deck a try if you're looking for something pretty consistent and good into the metagame. Having access to Phantom Dive to put damage wherever you want, Charizard to help be a dark type attacker, accelerating energies, big damage out the back, gives you a lot of opportunities there. So I think we might see this deck actually do pretty well at EUIC if I have a hunch. Speaking about the Danish Kitchen, we have another Oscar Madsen in co-creation, the Dawn Zard variant of Charizard. So Charizard EX being able to search it out with Dawn, and then you can have Terrapagos EX Terapagos EX activating Noctowl, Fanroto being able to search it out. There's a cool like combo there to grab all your pieces necessary, but this deck should be incredibly consistent when it comes to setting it up. I might actually rank Pultzard ahead of this right now. I was really debating on that, but not to ruffle up too many feathers, because Charizard, Noctowl, Donzard has seen a little bit more success over the course of the metagame. But yeah, these weekly videos is always tough to decide, do I want to move it up a spot and get everyone all riled up or not? Not really any changes here from last week at all. Really close to what Nikolai, who won a previous regional championships in Europe, has been rocking. I made a few changes myself, but other than that, I think it's a pretty solid deck across the board. Probably going to see a decent bit of it. We're kind of into the big four categories, and that has always been Gardevoir, Gholdengo, Dragapult, Charizard in any capacity, and then fifth has always kind of been like fifth through eighth is pretty similar, and then it's just a couple decks at the bottom. But that's our current metagame in a nutshell. Let's see which deck out of the big four is in number 3. At number 3, we have Dragapult Dusknoir. Updated this deck slightly. I think I'm pretty close to what Henry Brand rocked at Sydney Regionals. Very similar to the list that I had previously with the rare candy already included. I just cut out the Dawns that I had in this deck for an additional Hilda. I think Hilda works a lot better with Neo Upper Energy and rare candy, so you can kind of jump back into a game. And it ended up cutting a card for a Nest Ball, something that I can use earlier on if I just draw into it, or can waste in the middle of the game if I ever need to thin out or search for a Pokemon. I do like Moltres over Monkey Dory right now. I know a lot of people say that Moltres is kind of a fraud card in the deck, but I do think if your opponent puts a Genesect down, you're able to hit right into it, knock it out when it comes to the Gholdengo matchup. If your opponent has a Gholdengo out, you can hit it with Moltres and then finish it up with Dusknoir play or Dusclops play in the mid to late game. So a lot of really cool things that you can do with this deck. Monkey Dory is probably better overall in the metagame, but as Gholdengo is poised to be the most played deck at any upcoming Phantasmal Flames Ascended Heroes event, I really do think that it's worthwhile to run the Moltres right now. I know some people might want to run both. I don't think there's necessarily enough room to run both. But maybe if you do, you can cut a copy of Nest Ball and just try to run both. But I'm not sure how much I feel about that. Might be getting a little overly techy. Our runner-up for the week is going to be Gholdengo EX. Now, this is the version that won Sydney Regionals with Lucas taking the cake. Gholdengo EX has been kind of the number 2 default deck, pretty much the deck that if you're not playing Dragapult or if you're not playing Gardevoir, you're probably playing Gholdengo. And I think that's really where the metagame is kind of shaped up, that those are the 3 top decks that people choose. Charizard is number 4, kind of by default, and then everything else really falls beyond that. I really like the lack of Lopunny, the lack of Mawile in this deck, and I think if there's regionals to kind of take them out, or an event to take them out, EUIC in London might be that tournament, giving yourself access to Lana's Aid, a little bit more room for techs. I do like the secret box, being able to kind of search out what you want. So I like all the aspects that we have in this deck, of the 4 boss, the premium power pro, the vitality band, the bravery charm for mirror, being able to put that on either Gimmighoul, Solrock, or Lunatone, or even the Hops Cramorant. You just have a lot of options when it comes down to it to increase your HP, giving yourself some pretty cool stuff going on. Is this the best way to play Secret Box? That's a big question. I really like the version of Gholdengo that I played at Cartomagica League this past Friday that had Mega Lopunny Prime Catcher. So, and I don't know if it's better to run this version of Secret Box or Josh Frank's version of Secret Box that's the Iono and the Team Rocket's Watchtower. I do like the straight up consistency, and I do like that Secret Box is kind of like an extra Arven or extra consistency card in this spot. So a lot to really kind of take in and decide on, but this is kind of like where Gholdengo's heading. Otherwise, you could check out Gabe Smart's second place list from Sydney Regionals, Josh Frank's top 4 list from Merida Regionals, or you could check on social media on Twitter or Facebook I guess X now, on Twitter, that is, and check out the list that I played at League on Friday. But it's not our number one deck of the week. Our number one deck of the week is Gardevoir takes the number one spot. Jellicent EX seems to be rising in popularity as decks continue to kind of disrespect this variant, having options into the straight version of Henry Chow's deck. Oceanic Curse and the additional Oceanic Gloom really gives you a lot of opportunities to slow your opponent down. We're going to be rocking with Brent Tonnison's list that he made top 4 with at the Sydney Regional Championships. He's played it at the handful of past tournaments such as Merida, Toronto, and has put up some pretty solid results. So when you're one of the greatest players in the game and you keep on rocking the same deck, there's probably a reason why you're playing that deck. I know that Brent cooked me at Toronto Regionals with this exact same archetype. We had a really close set, but overall it is really tough to beat when you're a Gardevoir deck, a Dragapult deck, a Gholdengo deck, especially if those decks aren't necessarily teching towards your build. So Gardevoir continuously finds itself at the top. I mean, if you're not playing this build, you could be playing Henry Chow's straight up version of Gardevoir that he played at Toronto Regionals and a lot of other players played. I mean, at this point, Gardevoir is really decided between a handful of players, Brent being one of them, Henry being another, and we're just kind of living in their world until it rotates. But for now, we have it as our number one deck of the week. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I know it's not the most exciting metagame we've ever been in, and I sometimes question if it's worthwhile to post these videos, but I do think with the minute changes of between the Gholdengo deck, the Dragapult deck, the Gardevoir deck, the variants that are updating, the placements, it does make it worthwhile, and it allows me to update my decks in real life too. Not to, I mean, it's my YouTube channel, so we'll make it for selfish purposes. Even if I just make these decks videos so I can kind of organize my own collection, I hope that anyone finds some relevancy in the top 10 best decks, and it's free content at the end of the day, so do with it as you wish. If you don't like it, don't watch it, but I do appreciate all y'all for watching it, and hopefully if you're at EUIC or if you're watching from home, just be sure to come up and say hi. A lot of comment on the channel. I'm always down to sign a playmat, take a picture, sign a card, have a conversation, whatever you want to do. So yeah, I'm never too busy to talk to any of the homies in the community. I'll catch up with all y'all later. Next video should probably be up. Probably gonna say like we're gonna take a bit of a break on the channel because day one of the tournament is gonna be Friday for EUIC. Saturdays there's the stream, Sunday there's the final stream, and then Monday is I'm gonna be home, so maybe expect a video Tuesday or Wednesday next week, as we kind of just jump back in, probably covering EUIC and the metagame going forward as we approach the next set of tournaments that we have in the Phantasmal Flames format. Anyways, that's enough yapping for me. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.